But Shawn, let me ask you. Of course, in the first place, you're a professional fighter, you're a professional athlete. Do you also consider yourself an entertainer?
Absolutely.
So what does it mean to you?
You know, an entertainer? I just had this conversation with someone recently, and I told them fighters today don't consider themselves entertainers. They don't look at themselves like they're entertainers. However, just like every other sport, the NFL, the NBA, MLS, soccer, football, you go to those events to be entertained. You go to those events to cheer for and root for the team or the person that you want to see be successful that night. And just because boxing, we bleed, you see vicious knockouts, you see guys who get hurt and don't make it the course of the fight. I think because of those reasons, boxing doesn't have the same connotation as those other sports in terms of being an a piece of entertainment. But when I began to look at myself as an entertainer, I started to say, what can I do to be the best entertainer that night? So, and it's been a while now. I think you guys, if you take a look at my career over definitely the last 2 years since I fought Danny Garcia, I think you'll see a different Shawn Porter in the ring in each fight. And I think that's because those fights, I called on myself to be just as much an entertainer as a fighter or a champion or someone, risking my life. And I think that having the approach of being an entertainer will bring back that spark and that fun life and personality that we had as amateurs when it wasn't about the money and it wasn't about how many people were seeing you, and it just really was about looking good and outclassing the guy that you're up against. And so I think that I definitely consider myself an entertainer, and I think more fighters out there should start considering themselves entertainers and understanding that what they're doing is bringing joy and the satisfaction to other people, and to look at what they do in a serious manner just as much as entertaining someone, just as much as it is them, actually just fighting hard to win.
Hey, do you have specific role models that inspired you when you were growing up?
Do you mean like in terms of being the entertainer in the sport of boxing, or just in the sport of boxing in general?
Well, both. I mean,
yeah. And you know what? I mean, honestly, to answer that question, I've been motivated and inspired by the who's of entertainment, to be honest with you. I mean, if we stick in boxing, we're talking Mike Tyson, we're talking Evander Holyfield, obviously Marvin Hagler, who was my all-time favorite fighter, Sugar Ray Leonard. No one was flashier or faster or anything than him in the ring, until you look at Roy Jones Jr., who in my personal opinion is one of the most entertaining fighters to ever exist on this planet. Also other sports, Barry Sanders, if you guys know the sport of football, American football, he in my personal opinion was the best running back of all time. And it's because he would be on one side of the field and he'd run to the complete opposite side of the field, outrun everybody, and still score a touchdown. No, we've never seen that since Barry Sanders. Even entertainment in movies, Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, and if you take a look at Martin Lawrence, he has a boxing background. So again, if you're looking at ways to have fun in the sport of boxing, you take a look at someone like Martin Lawrence and the way he moves around and has fun with the bags, even though he's missing and things like that. Now you're able to go to the gym and just really just be relaxed and do what you do, with the understanding that people other than us actually love that and enjoy it and can't wait to see it. So I've been inspired by a lot of different forms and people around this planet, and I think they've really helped me become who I am now.
Martin,
yeah.
first, I'm going to have an argument. I'm going to have a discussion with Shawn Porter because I'm older and I'm more a Walter Payton guy. Okay?
I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you.
Second, I would like to participate in this panel as a boxing commentator, not as a host. I'm going to take advantage that you're hosting this show. And I've been commentating fights for a long time. That's how I met Mark also. And it's all about entertainment. It's not, I know there's people that love boxing and they're going to be there watching the technique and all that stuff. But the main fights are built with people that wants to see story, drama, everything that builds. That's why the press conference are really important. Mark can tell you hundreds of anecdotes about that. The weigh-in, the face-off, that's really interesting. And the boxing entrance, it's really amazing. And as a commentator, that I'm the channel to bring that to the people. I want to show you some pictures here. That's really interesting. That this is something that you can tell the people that you want to show. Mark, please correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
Mark?
I'm not. Oh, no, I'm not correcting you. I'm just waiting till you're done so I can amplify with more examples exactly what you're saying.
Please go ahead.
Mark, tell us, Mark, from who are the most entertaining fighters, both inside and outside of the ring, that you work with?
Well, you know, one of the most challenging things, just to go back for a second, is it's easy for a fighter to say, I'm an entertainer. But there are different aspects of entertainment that fighters have to understand. The first part of entertainment is your performance in the ring. You're a performer, not just a fighter. You're a performer. And that means the way you carry yourself in the ring at its core, when you're fighting, when you're showing your craft. You need to do it and perform for the fans. You need to give them some entertainment. They have to see some attitude. They have to see some talk. The outfit you wear into the ring walk itself, the demeanor when you're being introduced, all of that creates a character. A diamond has many facets, and there's a lot of facets that take place from the time you leave that locker room until the time you get in the ring, do the fight, and then the final bell rings, and then you have your post-fight interviews. All of that is part of performing. So I emphasize that with every fighter, and over the years, the ones I work most closely with on the big pay-per-view shows, we talked about every one of those aspects for every fight and said, think about it. What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? I loved working with promoters and fighters who had creative intuition and gave me some creative license to have some fun. The first one I worked with like that was George Foreman, 1991, when we did Holyfield Foreman. You remember George Foreman? He was the angry guy with the German Shepherd in his first chapter of his boxing career. Well, by the time he came back and fought Evander Holyfield on pay-per-view, George was America's sweetheart. George was 40 years old. At the time, that was considered very old for a fighter. And George said, I'm going to fight for all the senior citizens. He had a pile of cheeseburgers brought in on a giant tray for every fight that we did, every press conference. It began with cheeseburgers coming in. George put a smile on the face of the media, of the fans. He took pictures with every senior citizen he saw. When we shot the commercial, Evander stood up in one corner and George sat down in a rocking chair in the other corner of the ring for the commercial. And he rocked back and forth and he said, oh, wait till you see this old dog's going to teach that young kid some tricks. And that was George's thing. And that's one of the reasons we did almost 1.4 million buys. George captured the hearts of America. And he taught us early on that in the pay-per-view business, it was a lot more than just what happened in the ring. Right after that, we did many fights with Oscar De La Hoya. Oh, Oscar De La Hoya knew performing. Oscar De La Hoya loved interacting with fans. Every time we did a press conference, Oscar would spend 2 hours after every press conference going from one fan to another, signing, taking pictures. letting them shake his hand, letting them touch him. Oscar knew that if there were 10,000 fans at a press conference, it would turn into 1 million fans by the time they all went home and started talking about what they saw and the guy that they met. And he was a genius at that, and it accelerated his growth tremendously. Floyd Mayweather. Oh my God. Floyd came in just in time for the internet and the boom in African-American media. So Floyd said, I know who I am. I know what I'm about. Floyd sharpened his knives a little bit. Floyd put on an edge, and Floyd developed, the money team, the best ever. Floyd did all that because he was shrewd, and he said, I'm going to have a brand. And Floyd ran around the country with a little bit of attitude, and he played with other fighters. We were on a tour once. He stole Oscar De La Hoya's equipment, his gloves. Oscar couldn't train. He stole Oscar's dinner when we were on the road, so Oscar couldn't eat. And Floyd said, I'm a bad man. Wait till you see what I do. Funny, Floyd's character outside the ring actually exceeded his character inside the ring. But by the time he got into the ring, he was such a Darth Vader that the fans couldn't see. All Floyd had to do was smile and poke a little, and the fans, in their own minds, created the bad man in the ring that was larger than life. But that really all came from Floyd outside the ring. He was a genius that way. Manny Pacquiao, he said, I'm going to be the great statesman. I'm going to run for Congress in my country, and I'm going to be the great statesman that everyone in the world loves because I'm here for everybody. Manny mastered that. Every fighter had their angle that made them. Bernard Hopkins, you want to talk about a character. Bernard knew how to be bad. And Bernard knew that the story of his days in jail and then coming out of jail and turning himself into the great citizen that he proclaimed he was. Falling in love with and fighting for his mother all those years, his mother Shirley, who passed away prematurely. Bernard wrapped his arms around that. He was a genius at promoting a fight. He once faked leaving the fight premises and going home, and everybody thought he left because he was negotiating for what he wanted. And everybody wrote about that aura of Bernard Hopkins. And Bernard could be a tough guy, but Bernard was shrewder than he was tough. And he was a hell of a tough guy. I never met a fighter as shrewd as Bernard. Everybody had their angle. And you want to talk about the ultimate entertainer, the ultimate man who understood his brand and how to play it? He wasn't a fighter. He was a promoter named Don King. You think Don's hair in the morning woke up looking like that? I saw Don's hair down in the morning. I saw him call for Isidore for the comb and fluff it up. I saw Don put on those tuxedos. How about that cigar? He never once smoked a cigar in his life, but the brand was that he always had a stogie in his mouth ready to go. That laugh, Don King, he personified and mastered that laugh. The jewelry, all of the jewels he would wear. Before Floyd Mayweather wore jewels, believe me, Don King wore them. And you know where Don King learned a lot of his thing? He told me all the time. Don was a student of Muhammad Ali. Muhammad was brash. Muhammad talked like nobody. Don learned a lot of his talking points from watching Muhammad Ali. Never said that. He called it his own. But Don was a brilliant, brilliant showman and made a brand and made everything bigger that Don touched. So I had the privilege of watching some of the greatest in history do their thing. And when they did it well, there was nothing like it in the world.
Mark, when there was Canelo against Jacobs and they start pushing, and I interview Bernard Hopkins right after the weigh-in. Mm-hmm. I asked him, what do you do when you're face off in a weigh-in? Mm-hmm. And you know personally Hopkins, and he's a great guy. He's always smiling. I have a picture with him kissing me in the cheek. And he'll look at me like in a face-off. I was scared.
Yeah.
He knows how to do that. I mean, he changed from the very nice guy to that.
Yeah. Yes.
And I remember that I read in a book, Ken Norton's book, what you were saying. Ali was in a hospital right after the fight in Japan. You remember that he has a lot of bruises in the legs. And Ken Norton went to visit him. And he got into a room. Ali received him and said, how you doing? Let's walk. And they were walking in the aisle. And at some point, Ken Norton says, he started shouting at me like a crazy man. I'm going to kill you, you big, whatever. I didn't understand until I saw that all the media was 20 feet away and they came running.
Oh, yeah.
And I knew that Muhammad Ali was the master on that.
Yes.
He knew the press was there.
Yeah.
He knew that if he shout, they will come and they will see Ken Norton and Muhammad Ali together.
Oh, yeah. You know, Bernard, remember Bernard had a great fight with Joe Calzaghe.
Mm-hmm.
Bernard wanted that fight badly, and Joe wouldn't bite. Joe wanted no part of Bernard. And I was with Bernard one day, and we walked into a media room, and Calzaghe was there, and Bernard said, watch me. In 15 minutes, we're going to have a fight. I said, what are you going to do? He said, stay away. You don't want to be anywhere near this, but watch me. And Bernard went in there, and he used his greatest ploy of racist remarks and accusations. Joe Calzaghe and his father were crazy beyond themselves. And basically, at that moment, Calzaghe accepted the invitation to fight Bernard. Bernard took Joe out of his game. Joe forgot where he was. He just couldn't wait to get at Bernard Hopkins. Unfortunately, had to wait to get into a ring. Right. Bernard made sure they didn't fight until they were getting paid to do so. That's one thing about Bernard. He didn't throw a punch unless he's getting paid. But that's how Bernard King made that fight. And he was very astute that way. I saw so many fights get made under circumstances like that. I mean, Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. Do you know how brilliant Floyd was to get that fight done when he sensed it was close, but he knew that the promoters were in the way, that Arum and Heyman and others weren't talking to each other and weren't going to get it done. And Floyd said, we got to get this fight done. And what do you think Floyd did? Floyd went to a basketball game. He knew Manny Pacquiao was going to be at that game. And the second he saw him, Floyd went right over to him, engaged him, took him up to his private room, put a show on for the media, put his arm around Manny, and started talking Manny's language. That made the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, because that's how smart Floyd was, and he took it into his own hands. Certain fighters had, and Floyd became a great promoter because of those same skills. I've seen so many fighters over the years. There were others that would use intimidating type tactics to change the fight before it even got into the ring. There were many that were great at that. Antonio Tarver used to love to try those tactics.
Sorry to interrupt, Mark, but I just want to explain this picture.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
This is the private airport for Mayweather's Pacquiao fight. It was full of private jets.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Everything was private jets. There were more people in that stadium because of private jets than there were because of public transportation or any other way. Yeah. Yeah, but there were so many great fighters over the years that did that. Riddick Bowe, when he was heavyweight champion, was a great entertainer. Riddick could do imitations better than most fighters. He used to imitate Muhammad Ali. He'd imitate the other fighter. You know, it's funny. Evander Holyfield had a great character that fans identified with. Lennox Lewis was a gallant warrior and a great fighter. But when it came to promotion, they were the B-sides of most of the promotions because their personalities were being pricked and pushed by the other fighters. I remember when Lennox fought Hasim Rahman, right? The first fight was South Africa, and Rahman knocked Lennox out. And Lennox came back, and Rahman knew that he was going to make Lennox so mad that he was going to get the mental edge for the fight. That was his goal anyway. And we went to ESPN, the Kids Zone in Los Angeles, in Anaheim, at Disney World. And I remember sitting down and the publicist saying, make sure the ESPN interviewer sits between Lennox and Hasim. I said, oh, no, they get along well. They don't need to do that. And Kelly Swanson said, no, make sure they're sitting in between them. I, of course, let the two of them sit next to each other. Well, it didn't take but 30 seconds for Hasim Rahman to challenge Lennox Lewis's manhood. For Lennox Lewis to turn to Hasim and basically say, why don't you ask your sister about my manhood? And the next thing you know, 13 feet and 580 pounds of heavyweight fighters were rolling around the floor in front of 300 kids wearing Mickey Mouse ears at the ESPN Zone in Anaheim. And that changed the promotion, and that made that fight. So many stories with so many astute fighters. Hasim did what he wanted to do, get under Lennox's skin. What he didn't realize was he lit Lennox on fire that way, and Lennox went in the ring and said, I'm going to show you who the champion is and who the great fighter is. and Lennox did it in the rematch. But fighters who understand that they're performers are the ones that can take it to another level in pay-per-view and get the fans to watch them and get the fans to pay for them. But you have to be very astute and very diligent about it. And you have to make yourself available. It's a lot of work. I mean, Shawn could tell you that. Some of these big fights, you can't wait to go to sleep. People are pricking you and pushing you so much to be involved. Right, Shawn?
Oh, Shawn, who's there?
Hello.
Who's
My baby
who's
boy.
that little entertainer?
Say hi.
Hey.
Hey, how are you? How
He's
old
gonna
are
be
you?
an entertainer for sure. He's a monster.
How old are you?
How old are you?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no. You know, Mark, I was gonna ask you a question. I think that from where I'm sitting, I turned pro in 2008, and all the way up until this point, I can tell you in my experience, no one's ever come up to me and said, you should do this, you should do that, you should try this, you should try that. I think this will work for your promotion. I think that will work for your promotion. And I think that when it comes to promoting fights, when it comes to being an entertainer in the boxing ring, I think that's a lost art of boxing. Would you agree with that?
It is. I learned it from the masters. And listen, why did we do 24/7 at HBO? Because we knew that you had to connect the athletes and the fans. Mm-hmm. My wife, if I say to her, let's watch boxing, she says, what are you, crazy? I show her one episode of 24/7. She has to see the fight. She has to see the conclusion. Now, connections when you do 24/7, you're exposing facets of the diamond. It's another form of performing and entertaining. You know, it's in the ring, it's out of the ring. When you do media interviews, when you do your press conferences, your face-offs, all of that is about performing and entertaining. And you know what, Shawn, if people didn't talk to you about that, then they underserved you, frankly, because those are the things that take people from being, in effect, the B side of a promotion to gaining the leverage to be on top of a promotion, because the fans love it and they demand to see you. And, a lot of promoters don't like it when the fans demand to see their fighters, because it takes some control out of their hands. And a lot of times that has to do with what a promoter does or doesn't do with you, because they're a little worried about, hey, this guy's got a little bit too much talent. If like in the form of Shawn Porter, if he starts showing himself a little too much, I'm going to lose some control. That can happen too. But for fighters, it's the only way to go. And everybody plays it a different way. Not everybody can imitate. Not everybody's a jokester. Not everybody's a gangster. But you find ways to entertain and connect. And for people to say, I love this guy. Yeah. Andre Ward had his own way. He was son of God. He was straight. People loved his integrity. They loved his character. They fell in love with it. And it took him to another level. Later in his career, unfortunately, it was too late. But people learned to appreciate that about him.
Mark, let's include Benny, because he, besides everything he's doing, is a close friend of one of what I say is one of the best entertainers today, especially in the heavyweight division, Tyson Fury. Benny, tell us a little bit about how Tyson is when it gets to a personal level, and what happens if he switches on his in-ring personality.
First of all, I would like to bring another side up, which is what I also try to teach my fighters, especially the young guys, because what I see happening now many, many times is they put the whole entertainment factor on priority, and they totally forget about it's all about, and all the fighters that we spoke about now. First and foremost, it's all about the performance, the skills, developing into a world-class fighter. And I would say the second step then, or maybe in between, maybe that's even more the job of a good promoter or a good manager to find the right image and so on. But a lot of guys, they worry about what they are wearing, they worry about their Instagram followers, they're worrying about what car they drive, how good they are looking, if they went to the barbershop before the fight, and all kinds of stuff. And many forget what's most important. And I would even say, even if you're not the biggest entertainer, if you perform over and over again and on the highest level, you will definitely make it as a boxer, as an entertainer. You will earn your money, and you will achieve a lot. And then I mean, the big names like, and I would say it all started with Jack Johnson. I would say he is the first one ever who made it, maybe not even only as a boxer, but also as a sport athlete in general, who made it into a superstar. And he had all that stuff around, but also him, it was all about the performance in the ring, even in probably tougher times than today. And after him, I would say, was Sugar Ray Robinson, who came and took something from Jack Johnson. And then Muhammad Ali came, and I think he took something as well from Sugar Ray Robinson. And then Sugar Ray Leonard came, and he took something from Muhammad Ali. And then the great 90 area came with Mike Tyson or Prince Nassim or then Floyd Mayweather. And now, maybe now it's Tyson Fury. And Tyson definitely will agree with me that first and foremost, it's all about the skills in the ring. You need to be better than all the other guys. You need to perform in the ring. And the next step is then to sit down and take a couple of minutes or have a team who's working on it for a couple of hours. How can you put more to it? Like, what is the entrance about? What is your image? And Tyson is really who he is. That's another part of it. I can see a lot of fighters. They are not entertainers, but they want to be entertainers. So they are watching and trying and wasting a lot of time there. And most great guys, all of them that we were talking about, they are all natural entertainers as well. And so is Tyson. It's not really that he slips into a totally different role. He has this part of his personality is like that. So he loves to sing in private. He loves to sing in the ring then. He loves to wear fancy stuff in private. He loves to wear fancy stuff in the public. So just wanted to bring that up as well, because maybe some young fighters are watching, and well, it's very important, like how is the whole business factor and entertaining and your image and all that. But if you won't make it in the ring, like with the skills, you can entertain how much as you want. Nobody cares about you at the end.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. Entertainment takes stars and makes them superstars. Yeah. It takes superstars and makes them megastars. What I used to do at the head of HBO pay-per-view, I was going to be involved with the biggest, best fights in the world. What I needed to do was also identify those athletes that could be entertainers to take us to another level. Because I wanted to use big pay-per-view fights to reach beyond core boxing fans and expand the audience. To do that, you needed the guys with the personalities. It takes a scientific approach. It takes someone sitting down, analyzing, understanding the person, the athlete they're working with, and crafting a brand around the strengths of those athletes. Because you can't make somebody what they're not. But everybody has aspects to them and to their character that as long as they're willing to put in some work, you can take them to another level. They have to be willing. And if they're willing, you can find those aspects to craft that brand that will help them become much more successful at what they do. You just have to have the right talent around you, you know, in terms of, like I was an astute marketer and I paid a lot of attention to it. I listened, watched, and learned from the best. I grew up with the best promoters. I worked with many superstar fighters. I remember everything I saw in every promoter and fighter, and I logged it away and I used it. I mean, we used to name the fights to, as entertainment to get people involved. That was part of what got people interested in a fight as well. It's all about creating a brand, an image, a commercial interaction. With social media, you got to create interaction. You could put a fighter on social media, and if they're not effective communicators, you can ruin them by exposing them. True. Not every fighter deserves to be exposed. Some fighters deserve to just be in the ring, kick somebody's ass, look good, and build that aura. And that's the way it was early on with Mike Tyson. You didn't need anything with Mike. All you needed was Mike doing what he did and capture that footage and put it out. And that was Mike's entertainer and performer side. People just said, oh my God, look at this kid. But he was blessed. But Shawn, I know what you have in you as a person, in addition to being an athlete. There's no doubt you have it within you to turn people on and take them up a level. The right people around you just have to say, let's do it and want it.
And what I was just about to say, I think, important part of athletics in general is brand. And I think that that's something that isn't really spoken about in the boxing community to the fighters. The fighters, I think most time the promoter and maybe even managers are waiting to see if their fighter is that fighter that they signed, and they're waiting for that fighter to get to that certain level. But along the way, they have not done anything to brand that fighter. They have not taught that fighter anything to brand themselves. And then here we are on the world championship level, and now we're talking about, oh yeah, let me come up with a logo. Oh yeah, let me brand myself now. Well, it's not too late, but you haven't really showed anything. So people, the only thing they know is what happens when you get in the ring. You know. So for me, I think a great part of what I'm doing now is, on top of social media, is the job that I have with Fox. I think Fox has given me another platform to show people that, you know, there's more that come in the package of Shawn Porter than just being a fighter that fights with his heart and and has a gas gas nozzle that will never get on empty, and you know, and has more to offer the fight game than just, you know, just that of being a fighter. So you know, I think it's a work in progress. The other thing I want to say too is I think that boxing right now is in that phase where it's kind of everything's about money. Everything's about who looks the best, and no one really understands, in order to get to that money, in order to look your best, you have to have that brand, you know. So I think right now boxing is going through a transition in a phase where it's coming back to the branding that those guys like Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray Robinson, you know, even Bernard Hopkins and all of those guys used to have back in the day.
Well, Shawn, you have a tremendous opportunity at Fox. It's potentially a game changer for you for the rest of your career in life.
Yeah. I agree.
So you were right to be serious about it and to think about it. And you have to find some people around you there in that environment and demand that they talk to you about it, or find people who you like in that space and talk to them about what do they do and how do they do it. Because you as a fighter can make a connection with fans that will have them just fall in love with you. It's a unique position for a fighter who takes that, you know, Paulie Malignaggi's done a great job of that, you know, at Showtime. Fans identify with him as a fighter's broadcaster. Broadcaster.
That's the other brand. I mean, we have this, what would happen with Muhammad Ali with social media? I want to show a video that I got from, let's see it. It's Shawn Porter.
I've only just heard that the WBC would like Showtime Shawn Porter to fight another title eliminator. And they want me to fight none other than a cherry picker himself, Danny Garcia. When I say to you, Danny Garcia, let's get it on. Ooh, yeah.
For some reason, that reminds me of The Undertaker.
No. That was the Macho Man.
The Macho Man.
The Macho Man. You're talking to the last wrestling commissioner in the state of Michigan. That was the Macho Man.
So let me.
That was a good job.
So there's a story behind that, if I can, and I'll tell it very quickly. Again, with social media now, you put one thing out and everyone sees it. So I go to the gym one day. My dad says, Danny Garcia did a video saying he would fight you. You need to do a video saying that you want to fight him, and you know, answer his video. And we were at the gym. As soon as I get to the gym, my dad's, you know, telling me this. I said, okay. We finish our workout. He says, hey, are you going to do that video right now? I says, no, I think I'll wait till I get home. He says, you need to do that video right now. You need to get that on social media right now. I said, Dad, I just finished training. I'm going to do it when I get home. And what he didn't realize at that point in time, when he told me to do a video saying that I wanted to fight Danny Garcia as well, I thought to myself, that's boring. People see Q&A all the time from fighters. I don't want to do a video just saying I'll fight Danny Garcia. That just sounds boring. So on my drive home, I was thinking of something that I could do. And then out of nowhere, Macho Man Randy Savage came into my mind. And I'm not even a big wrestling fan or anything, but he came into my mind and I could not let it go. My drive home is about 15 to 20 minutes. I get home And my dad had another fighter with me. He says, hey, man, you got to do that video or your dad's going to be mad. I said, no, we're going to do it right now, but I got an idea. I went up, I grabbed that leather coat, the glasses, the cowboy hat, all that kind of stuff, just stuff that I had around my house, you know, that I used at different points. And I said, hold the camera up. I did that video in one take. And then when I said, oh, yeah, he stopped and then he lost it. He said, I can't believe you just did that. I was trying my best not to shake and not to laugh. That was amazing. He said, where'd you get that from? And I told him exactly what I told you guys. I said, my dad wants me to do a video, but that just sounds boring. So I wanted to do something fun. I said, let's put that up now, you know, and we put it up and it went viral. Actually, LL Cool J liked it, but it's things like that that get people's attention. Things like, you know, just the norm. Then you got to get out of your norm in order for people to really take notice of you and what you have. And I think back then that video was like 2017 or 2018. That was the point where I realized that I'm more than just a fighter. I'm an entertainer and I have to take advantage of every opportunity that I have.